This is the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3, and honestly, if there is one way to spend $400 on a headphone and get people to actually notice that you spent it, it's this one. Because it looks, in my opinion, a lot more premium than a lot of other $400 headphones, including Sony and Bose and Sennheiser offerings. I think this looks fantastic, and from far away, this feels luxury. This feels like you spent a little money on something that's nice for yourself. And it doesn't just stop there, because in my opinion, if it's not comfortable, what is even the point? And these things are comfortable as heck. I mean, they have a lot of swivel. They have a lot of swivel in and out as well, and they fit on the head really, really well. The headband's got a nice bit of cushioning. It's a nice wide headband distributing the pressure on your head. And the ear cups, here's the surprising bit. They're really flat looking, but they're actually really deep. So if you've got ears that stick out a little bit more than mine, it's less likely that your ears will actually touch the sides of the ear cups, significantly less likely than other headphones anyway. I like it. So far, very comfortable, great cushioning on the ear pads as well, great noise isolation as well. This is a good start. Now, what I really like is the fact that they fold both ways, which might seem silly, right? Who wants to fold them this way? But when you're trying to put them down on the table, you don't have to find the right direction. It just folds flat. It's a small thing, but it really made a difference to me after using the Sony. So I like that as well. Another thing I really like is that the case is actually quite slim. It's a little bit on the larger side compared to something like the X Mark 6, but it's slim enough that it takes very little space in your suitcase, and I really like it. It also comes with this nice little pouch where you can have a USB-C cable, USB-C to 3.5mm jack, or anything else you want, maybe an airline adapter, because this little area is actually quite deep and can hold a couple of different things. If you want a little dongle DAC or something, that's really cool and is a little edge up from a lot of competitors. Now, the way you control these is through buttons. So if you're not a fan of touch controls, this thing's got physical buttons all over. However, I do have a little bit of a problem. They've got a lot of buttons, they've got all the functionality in the world, but the buttons are, well, there's two issues. One, when you put these headphones on, your finger tends to naturally, because it's a thumb, nice big fat finger, it tends to naturally go towards the thickest part of your headphone, except that's not where they have put the buttons. Most other headphone manufacturers would have put them on this part of the headphone. These guys have gone and put on this part, which is a very slim part, and it's also sloping off. So when you try and go for it, you naturally miss them, and then when you try and adjust it, it's a very small surface area for your thumb, and that's less than spectacular given that the buttons themselves are also quite thin. So I wish the buttons were a little thicker, and I wish they were placed closer to the actual thick part of the headphone. That would have been a lot easier for it to get to. Nothing you can't get used to, but you know, you're spending $400. It's the little things that also make a difference, and I think that this could have been done a little bit better in my opinion. Nonetheless, there's a little bit of texture different on the buttons, and there's a size difference and a shape difference to try and get you to differentiate between the buttons you're pressing. In terms of controls, it's got everything you really need. Volume up and down, incoming calls. There's really not much to talk about. So let's get down to the app and the features. Now, the Bowers Wilkins music app is incredibly confusing to me. So the first page of the app, it looks very nice. The color scheme is very, it's really premium looking, but you've only got 3 different controls here. One is to switch between your devices because you've got multi-point, that's nice. The second is to add streaming services, and the third is just more streaming services, which is fine and all, except the main functionality of the app, the part of the app that allows you to control the damn headphones, is 2 menus deep. You have to go down, go to settings, then select your headphones, and then you reach the part where you actually mess around with the features. And there aren't too many features to begin with, which is fine. I don't have an issue with simplicity. I think that's fine. Too many features can spoil everything. But maybe a few more would have been good. Like you've got noise cancelling, pass-through and off, but there's no customizability, where the other options, the Sennheisers, the Sonys, they all do give you more customizability in case you don't like their pass-through or their noise cancelling levels. Then you have advanced EQ, which we'll talk about in the next section of this video, and we'll talk about it in some detail, so just stick around. And then you've got quick action, which is the button on your left ear cup. You can switch between environmental controls, so your noise cancelling, and your voice assistant. Now, you have noise cancelling, pass-through and off. I don't like to go to off, ever, in any headphone. And in most headphones, you can make it so it does not go to off, just noise cancelling and pass-through. You can't do that here. So you see the lack of functionality, it starts to really bother you because when you want to switch, you have to go through a whole other setting to get to the setting you want. And that is what creates friction in everyday usage. Now you have an auto standby mode, which is great. I left this on overnight. It didn't lose that much battery because after 15 minutes, it goes into standby, you put it back on your head, comes back out, which is very nice. It's also got a wear sensor. So you've got on-head detection. So you want to pause, play. However, they've given you 3 settings, low, normal and high for sensitivity, because even Bowers and Wilkins knew that it's too sensitive. This is even on the lowest settings, I'll just be walking around with this and there'll be like an ever so slight shift. Even if there's not a shift, I'm just sitting here and I'm maybe chewing on something, it'll automatically pause your music or it'll automatically turn off noise cancelling. That's on the lowest sensitivity setting. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. And the only way to get around it is to turn off the wear sensor. But if you turn off the wear sensor, you don't get that auto pause, it'll keep playing and you'll keep draining your battery. So this is a big issue. I'm smiling now, but it is one of the most frustrating things while I was actually trying to review this headphone. And I think they need to fix their wear sensor. I think they just need to make it a lot less sensitive. And a lot of headphones get this absolutely spot on. So this can't be that hard to do. Bowers and Wilkins, if you're listening, work on this. This makes a huge difference. And that's pretty much it. From a features point of view, there's nothing else. From a codec point of view, you've got the aptX suite of codecs. So it's Qualcomm sound. If you've got a phone that supports that, then you can make use of aptX adaptive. Otherwise, you're stuck with SBC and AAC, which brings us to sound quality. Before we get into actual sound quality though, let's talk about noise cancelling. It's not great. So I haven't measured it. I usually do measure these things, but I haven't measured it. I've pulled a measurement from another French website that measured it, and my subjective listening tests tell me that this is on point. You get between 15 and 25 decibels of noise cancelling, which for a $400 headphone is simply not great, because for this money, you get the Sennheiser, which is okay, it's not that great either, but then you get the Sony X Mark 6 and the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra, which will kick ass and take names as far as noise cancelling is confirmed. This is not even in the territory. Don't get me wrong, if you put it on, like, it makes a difference. It does reduce sound noticeably, and it's not bad. It's just that for this price, it's not great. However, because of the passive level of isolation I get, voices in the background, high frequency stuff in the background, cutlery clanging, all that does get reduced by up to like 30 decibels, and that is a good thing. But that's mostly the passive noise cancelling. The active noise cancelling is just not doing much, unfortunately. That's a disappointment. It's just a disappointment. Transparency is okay, it's nothing to write home about. It's certainly not as good as the AirPods Max, the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra. Both of them are top notch, or the X Mark 6, which is slightly less than top notch, but also like A+, S- tier. This one is okay. But you might say, look, it's not about the noise cancelling. This is about a luxury product that's focused on sound. It's all about the sound quality. Yeah, well, let's talk about sound quality, shall we? It ain't great. There are some good things, like the bass is nice and punchy and very tightly controlled. I like that, but it doesn't go very deep. Like, there's no deep sub bass. It's mostly mid bass. Nothing wrong with that at $100, but at $400, and this is Bowers and Wilkins, you'd think they'd do more of that, but that's not the case. But bass is not the problem here. The problem is the mids and the highs. So on the one hand, the mids, they're not emphasized enough. They're a little more laid back, but what happens is they get kind of lost in the mix on certain tracks. Not the end of the world. Some people like a laid back sound. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is the treble. This is so sharp. It is so horribly sharp. On some tracks, you listen to it and say, oh, look at all the detail. It has so much detail. And then on virtually every other track, it's ear-splittingly bad. It's just so bad. And they do provide you with EQ in the app. The problem is, it's a 5-band EQ. And this is a problem for all manufacturers. Because what do? You either give 3 bands like Bose and say, this is customer friendly. Average consumers don't want 10-band EQs. They get intimidated. This is something they can use. I agree with that. Someone like me might like more bands and more granularity, but it's not great for the general consumer, and this is a general consumer type product. However, the only way that works is if you get the tuning right in the first place, and this is not right. The reason Bose's 3-band EQ works is because the overall sound signature, even though it is very flavored, is very smooth. There's no aberration in a small part of the frequency range. Sony X Mark 6, Not quite as smooth, but still pretty good. But then they give you more bands to play with. That's why you watch reviews like mine and you go and try that EQ and you sort your issues. Go and check out that video when you can. But this thing has a spike in treble somewhere that is so obnoxious, it just ruins everything for me. And you can't get rid of it without reducing the treble. And if you reduce the treble, you lose all the other treble, which is not a good thing. However, I have tried to come up with 3 EQ settings that I think will give you something. And I'm going to explain to you what they do, right? So you've got True Sound, which is the default EQ. Then you've got My Custom EQ. This is EQ number 1, and you can take a screenshot and copy it and use my EQ as a jumping off point. You don't have to agree with me, but it'll do some things. Like in this case, I've basically given it a bit of a bass tilt and a little more mid-range focus. So the bass goes up 0.5 or 1, the lower mid-range goes up a little to add a little emphasis and heft to the vocals, but mostly I'm just increasing the vocal range to give it a little bit of separation from the rest of the frequencies, and then I'm reducing the treble to reduce the sharpness. And I think I have achieved, this is kind of my favorite overall balanced EQ. It doesn't change the sound too much, it just tweaks the stock sound to where I think it's in a better place. Then you have Custom 2. Again, you can take a screenshot, and what this does is basically the same as the previous one with a little less bass. It's just a slightly cleaner version of what I just said. And then you've got the mid-gain setting, which just boosts vocals a little bit more. It lowers the bass a little bit more. This is a vocal forward flavored EQ setting that I think also works. Just try them all out and see what you like and play with it. If you want to just reduce the sharpness, you've got to play with the last band on the right hand side, the high frequency band, and you got to drop it by at least 1.5 and 2 notches. You lose a bit of treble, but you lose that sharpness, and I think that's a good thing. But Bowers and Wilkins of all people, I mean, these guys are audio guys, but I don't know if they're putting any effort into this, because this is just not great. It's not a particularly wide sound stage. It's not a particularly detailed sound, although it sounds like that because you've got too much treble focus on certain frequencies. But otherwise, I think the sound is just not that great. Okay, so there's a fair bit of breeze blowing. You're listening to the PX7 S3. Yeah, a lot of breeze actually, and it's starting to rain a little, so I should really go in. But how are the microphones handling it? I'm just speaking in a normal voice now. I'm not shouting. This would be shouting. I'm just speaking in a normal voice with wind rushing by my ears. What do you think? Is it cancelling it out well? There's a little bit of traffic as well, but the biggest noise here is definitely, yeah, it's very breezy. Okay, I should really, and it's raining more. I'm going to go back in there. You tell me how the microphone did. And yeah, okay, I'm going to go in now. So overall, would I recommend it? Absolutely not. I think it's got too many flaws. For $400, there are some very, very good things here. It looks great, it feels great, it's very comfortable on the head, and it's got all the controls you want. And look, I don't have an issue with the lack of features. Fewer features are fine as long as they work well, but the on-head detection is a real problem. And the app layout doesn't make sense, but the most important thing perhaps is that for $400, you don't get spectacular ANC, you get okay ANC, you get okay transparency, and you get sound that needs to be tweaked a lot before it can be called worth the money in any sense of the word. Sony and Bose both do better on this front. Sennheiser does much better on this front. And if you want to see those videos, go and check them out. I've got EQ settings for those videos that help that sound, and yeah, the $400 is a lot to spend on something that doesn't deliver on what it's actually supposed to deliver. Could have been nice, but they missed it. They missed it by a mile. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.